Thank you.
We're ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all. I, Cassandra Phillips, President of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees, call this meeting to order. This meeting is called under the Texas Government Code 551.045 based on the declarations of emergency regarding COVID-19 epidemic by the Governor of the State of Texas and the President of the United States. This meeting is being held via teleconference under Governor Abbott's order dated March 16, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meetings Act due to COVID-19. Because this meeting is being done via Zoom conference, I will now do a roll call. Please say present when I call your name. Jacqueline Colton.
Present.
Carla Fahey. Phil McNeely.
Present.
Renee McNeely.
Present.
Cassandra Phillips. Present. Janice Savage Martin. And Janet Vera Cruz.
Present.
Thank you. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present and that this meeting has been duly called. And the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and Governor Abbott's March 16, 2020 order. We will now go into closed session. Okay, we are back from closed session. We will now move to opening ceremonies. Trustee Janet Vera Cruz will lead us in the invocation as we start the opening ceremonies. Trustee Vera Cruz.
Good evening, everyone. If you would just bow your heads with me and join with me. Heavenly Father, we come together this moment and commit to you. Lord, your word says, do not worry about anything, but to pray and ask you for everything. And we ask for supernatural protection over our school leaders, staff, educators, students, and parents. Lord, we pray for wisdom to reside in us as a board in our decision making tonight. We pray, Father God, that the handling of the stressful encounters during the school week, Lord, will be handled supernaturally. Lord, we desire for you to release rivers of living water for the healing of our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trustee Vera Cruz. At this time, Trustee Carla Fahey will lead us in the pledges. Trustee Fahey?
Sure.
You don't have to stand up.
Oh. First, we'll have our United States pledge to our flag. This is, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one and indivisible. And now to our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Trustee Fahey. We will now move into the superintendent's report. I will now turn it over. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Trustee Fahey. We will now move to the superintendent's report. I will now turn it over to Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President, and good evening, board members, and for those that are in attendance, good evening to you. So I have the following items that I would like to share as part of the superintendent's report. You may go ahead and advance the slide, please. Thank you. So really wanted to start by giving you an update on the first 2 weeks of school. I think overall, we had a really good first 2 weeks of school. There were certainly challenges and there were highlights. I want to share with you what some of those challenges were first week of school. First, one of the challenges that we had was with ClassLink. The ClassLink is a sign-on access to gaining access to our learning platforms. And so ClassLink was not working on that first day of school. And so it took a quick period of time before we were able to recognize that and then be able to put a plan in place. But that certainly presented some fear with some parents and some students when they weren't able to log on with ClassLink. Also, we had a phone outage. We had a number of our phones that were out of service, and it quite simply was due to the large volume of phone calls that we were receiving on the first day of school. And then technology, because of course we are not quite at a one-to-one ratio just yet in terms of student and devices. Some of our students did not have a device on that first day, especially families that had multiple students within one household. And so as you might imagine, just some of the technology glitches of trying to log on and not being able to contact because the phone system was down, and then the technology and not every parent having or every student having a device certainly presented some challenges. On the positive side of that, we were able to recover ClassLink very quickly, and teachers were able to redirect our students to the Zoom link so that they could begin instruction and engaging our students. And so I was really proud of our teachers for being able to pivot in a very short period of time. Towards the end of the week, we saw our phones get restored. There was fewer phone calls. Many of the parents were able to get their technology questions and support answered at the campus level. And so we didn't have the same kind of level in terms of volume of phone calls as we had been experiencing on the first day of school. And then we also established a phone hotline that was available for parents to call and get assistance. The technology deployments continued to be provided for our students. We were providing those that first week, the devices the first week, as well as deep into that second week. And so you'll be getting some data later on in the board meeting on expected arrivals of additional technology devices. But our technology team, and also we had lots of helpers from across the district that joined in and supported all the technology department in deploying out the technology devices. I also had an opportunity to visit campuses on the first day and throughout the first week of school. And I was just really impressed with our teachers. I can tell you they are really top notch and they care about their students. There were many teachers and support personnel at the campuses that were making home visits to help their students and their parents learn how to log into the system, learn how to gain access to all the different learning profiles, or just simply navigate them through the different access points with the technology. And many of our campuses also had stations at their schools, and parents were coming up to the schools getting help and assistance all throughout the day. And so it was really an all hands on deck type of commitment that our teachers and our support staff all displayed. By the end of that week, we started to see things trend in a little more of a positive direction and begin to settle. And that's certainly what we want to see as we move into our third week of school. You may change the slide at this time. Thank you. One of the things that I really pay close attention to at the beginning of school is our enrollment and our attendance. Those are very important numbers to monitor for superintendent at this time of the year. It increases exponentially with COVID because we want to make sure that we are continuing to engage our students. I am pleased to say that our enrollment as of last Friday, a little bit over 11,700 families, about 11,726. That number changes daily as parents enroll. But the key thing for me to report out is that that is 96% of our projected enrollment. Our projected enrollment was 12,071. So it is very good that as we sit at the start of our third week of school, that we're at 96% of our projected enrollment. I do anticipate that that enrollment will continue to increase. And I think once we make decisions about face-to-face, we are likely to see even more of our enrollment and our attendance increasing. The key thing for us is we want to make sure that we're engaging our students in attendance on each and every day. And so our students have up until 11:59 on PM on each day to be able to submit their work. And they earn attendance by either interacting with the classroom teacher, which includes attending a live or virtual lesson, or submitting an assignment by 11:59 each day, or completing work in their virtual classrooms throughout the course of the day and maybe posting those assignments. That's how we gain that attendance. And we've seen that attendance go from 93% attendance on certain days and as low as 88% of attendance on other days. So we monitor those numbers daily, and we want to have those numbers in the high 90 percentile in terms of attendance. That would be around the norm. And especially with COVID, if we can maintain that level of engagement until we can get students in face-to-face, that's going to be a plus for our district. Regarding technology, a couple of things that I wanted to report on. We are continuing to seek opportunities to provide connectivity for our students and our parents. I was provided some insight, I guess about a week ago from Trustee Colton, and wanted to update you all on that. There's a program called Internet for, and it's an Internet for All campaign. It's basically a coalition made up of 40 community leaders, chief technology officers from districts across the area, and other officials. And it's called Get Connected, and it's sponsored by Senator West. And basically, it's a program that encourages families to call a hotline to share their connectivity needs. And then what happens is, as they call that a hotline, the districts begin to work one-on-one with those parents to help them with a solution to be able to get internet connectivity access. We are a part of that program. Our chief technology officer has meetings with this group on a weekly basis. And so we're going to be able to really just identify our parents, just another way, another vehicle to identify our parents, and then be able to start problem solving some of their internet connectivity challenges. The second item was something that was brought to my attention by our board president, and it's the Sprint T-Mobile program. We are a part of the Sprint. It's called the Sprint $1 million grant. We are, as a district, indeed a part of that. We've already received 250 hotspots as a result of being a part of the T-Mobile grant. And so there are future meetings that will be held with a representative that's kind of overseeing that program. And our technology director, again, Ms. Shante Cowan, will be continuing to sit in on those meetings, making sure that we are getting the latest information available to be able to help our students with some of the technology challenges that we know exist in our community. Also wanted to update you on COVID-19 and some of the things that we are doing in our district. Just wanted to reiterate the fact that we really have been very proactive with purchasing protective equipment for our teachers. You see the list there. We've got just a number of different PPE equipment, and it's in the thousands, literally in the thousands, that we've made a commitment to just protecting our teachers. And so along with that, we want to make sure that we are transparent with our community, with our stakeholders, and of course with our teachers. And so on last Friday, by the end of the second week of school, we were able to put up a dashboard on our website. And that dashboard, the data on that dashboard will change daily. In fact, there are there are instances where multiple times within a day that the data will change. It just depends on when we get verified cases of COVID-19. And so what I am pleased about is that the fact that this will help us improve consistency and notification. And so it's on the front page of our website. And so all of our stakeholders, whatever that stakeholder group may be, whether it be teachers, whether it be individuals in the community, board members, anyone will be able to look at that data on a daily basis and really be able to see by student, by staff, and by campus what our numbers are trending like. I also get updates from athletics on a weekly basis. We are still conducting daily screening for our athletes on a regular basis. And so we will be able to determine what the level of contact is there with our athletes. We just got notification today from Nolan Catholic, who is the team that we were scheduled to play this Friday in our first football game, that they had one case of COVID, but the challenge was there were 28 personal contacts with that one person. So they are not going to be able to play the football game this weekend because of the one COVID case and the number of athletes that they had to quarantine. So it's so important to be able to be transparent with our communities. And so we are committed to do that. And we'll be updating that dashboard on a daily basis. Also, in an effort to really just provide another layer of security for our teachers, in addition to all the personal protective equipment, in addition to the face shields, in addition to the plexiglass that we're providing for the desk coverings. In addition to all of that, we want to, in addition to all the regular cleaning that's going on a daily basis, or nightly basis rather, by our cleaning crew and our custodians, we wanted to just provide an extra layer of protection for our teachers. And so all of our teachers have the handheld disinfecting misters, and the disinfecting spray is indeed medical grade spray that they can use to disinfect and sanitize actually their classrooms. And so we were able to have our Teacher of the Year, Mr. Adam Conant, help us to explain how to use the cleaning devices in a quick video. And I wanted to share that quick video here with the board. At the conclusion of the video, that will conclude my superintendent's report, Madam President.
Hey Duncanville fam, we're back at it already. And as you know, our Duncanville leaders are doing everything possible to keep us safe in the classroom by providing us with hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, and our masks. But in addition to this, every teacher for each classroom is going to be provided with one of these disinfectant misters. So check this out. The disinfectant mister can be used throughout the day for all your high-touch areas like your door handles, light switches, even your computer keyboard. You just need to make sure that it's charged, and a full charge takes about 2 hours, okay? Then you can fill up your container with the disinfectant, turn on the machine, and just start spraying. On the side, you've got a little button that you can adjust the size of the spray by turning it. And if for some reason the nozzle clogs, you can go ahead and remove it and just rinse it with water. Be careful not to lose the needle that's inside. These misters are going to be a great way to help keep us healthy and our students healthy in our classrooms this school year.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Smith. Great presentation. We will now move to recognitions. I will turn the meeting over to Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Madam President, Dr. Smith. It's time again to recognize some great people doing great things here in Duncanville ISD. I wanted to make sure that you noticed in some of these boxes, our Zoom boxes, we have the Pantherettes basketball team. They're at the gym right now at Sandra Meadows. They live there anyway, so it's not surprising that they're there this late at night and wearing their mask and protection. But they are there to give a quick announcement and show off their new championship banner from the spring. And so I'll turn it over to Coach Howard. I think she can say it better than I ever could, so I'll let her have it.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Yes, great. All right. We want to thank the board president, Mrs. Cassandra Phillips, and the entire board of trustees. We also would like to thank Dr. Mark Smith for his continued support and dedication to the Pantherette program. The Pantherettes want to tell you, Dr. Smith, congratulations on being named the Region 10 Superintendent of the Year.
Yeah!
We also would like to show off our new banner. I'm going to try to move this so that you all can see it. Girls, point to where it's located. We have officially started a new championship row. We're excited about that and the opportunity to put more championship banners on up in the city. Lately, we haven't had much time to celebrate as we would like, but we have had time to grow and come together, which we are very thankful for, with the opportunity for the young ladies to come up and get some practice time and court time in. Also, am I good there? All right, there we go. Also, I have a surprise that I would like to share with the board, the president, Dr. Smith, and everyone that has joined our meeting tonight. It's a surprise for you all, but it's also a surprise for the girls. We have received our So today we received our championship rings. The girls didn't know and they didn't get the opportunity to see them. But girls, you all have earned this. And
Coach, make sure you're close to the mic so we can hear you.
Can you all hear me? Right here? The blue light? Okay, right here. Okay, talking to there. All right, so the girls are super excited. They've been asking daily when the rings would come in, and we finally got them in today. Can everyone hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, we finally got them in today. We're excited about our new championship ring there, and we're excited about the upcoming season. The girls are hungry for a back-to-back, and we've been in the gym working, and we were so thankful for the district for all the safety precautions that they put in place for us to be able to come in. It's been great for the girls athletically, academically, having the chance to express some of the energy, and also mentally for our student athletes to be able to come in and see each other and continue to grow as one. So we're very thankful, and we appreciate your continued support, and hopefully you all will see a celebration of us presenting the rings to the girls soon.
Okay, awesome. Congratulations, Coach Howard, and to the Pantherettes and your staff. We appreciate all that you do. We support you all, and we know you can do it again. So thank you for your leadership, Coach Howard. You're awesome.
Thank you, and that concludes our recognitions today.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. We will now move to communications from citizens to discuss pending agenda items before the board. And we do not have any communications from citizens regarding a pending agenda item. So, do I have a motion in regards to the safety and security audit as presented in closed session? You'll have to unmute.
I move that we accept the audit report.
Trustee Phil McNeely moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard two voices.
Janet, it's fine, Janet.
Okay, so Trustee Janet Veracruz seconded the motion. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. Questions, comments, or discussions? No? Okay, we're ready to move. We're ready to go for the vote on the motion for a safety and security audit. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of, or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton,
Yes.
Carla Fahey, Phil McNeely,
Yes.
Renee McNeely,
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes. Janet Veracruz.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed 6-0. We will now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? You will need to unmute. Motion? Consent agenda?
I would make the motion, but I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I don't know the letters.
Oh, okay, so we're
Moved.
moving D and F.
So moved.
Okay, so trustee Phil McNeely moved,
Second.
and trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the motion to amend the agenda as stated. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. No questions, comments, or discussion. Okay, looks like we're ready for the vote on the motion to amend the agenda. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of, or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton,
Yes.
Carla Fahey, Phil McNeely,
Yes.
Renee McNeely,
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes, and Janet Veracruz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Motion passed 6-0. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Trustee Carla Fahey moved.
Second.
There's trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the consent agenda. I'm sorry. Seconded the consent agenda be approved as amended, sorry. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion.
Just tell Carla she's muted.
I'm not now.
Thank you.
I didn't see it, but I heard her. She's sitting right next, well, not right next to me, but she's socially distanced from me. Okay, looks like we are ready to for the vote on the consent agenda as amended. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of, or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton,
Yes.
Carla Fahey,
Yes.
Bill McNeely,
Yes.
Renee McNeely,
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes, Janet Veracruz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Motion passed 6-0. Okay, we will now move to the action agenda. And the first item is conduct a public meeting on the tax rate for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. And the presenter is Dr. Ed Bigby.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith.
Good evening.
As you're aware, by law, the board has to conduct a public hearing before approving a tax rate each year. We've got a short presentation to explain how the tax rate was determined. And then, of course, we'll entertain any questions you might have. Okay, next slide, please. A quick comparison. It was a very interesting year. In 2019, you can see our certified value was just a little over 50 billion, and there was nearly 67 million that was under protest at the time it was certified. This year, our value was 5.2 billion, and there was $471 million worth under protest. So you can see it was a 600% increase in the amount of protested values, and most of that being residential. But the appraisal district went ahead and certified the values. We had to turn into TEA a projected taxable value, so we used 75% or 95% of the value under protest to determine a total taxable value for the 1920-21 school year. So you can see it was a little different. Estimated values went up right at 10%. Okay, next slide, please. As I said, we had to turn in this information to TEA, and they basically told us what our maximum tax rate was. They also gave us the means to calculate it, which I did, and came out the same number they did. So I'm assuming they finally got something right. And what they told us back was that 0.8476 is the maximum tax rate that the board could set without voter approval. Now that's without the 17 cents that was voted in the TRE. So you add the 17 cents in, and the maximum M&O tax rate for 2021 is 1.0176. Proposed rate is a little over a nickel less than the 1819 rate of actually that's the 1920 rate, sorry, of 1.0683, or 4.7% lower than last year's tax rate proposal. Next slide. We're proposing an interest in sinking or debt tax rate of 35 cents. That's what it was last year and the year before. The past 2 years, we've had to use some fund balance to pay our debt. With the rise in values, that shouldn't need to take place this year. The 35 cents should be able to cover our entire debt payment. And hopefully, maybe next year, we can even talk about lowering that debt rate. Here's a comparison. The first column is 1920. The second column is 2021. You can see the tax rate for M&O. The proposed one is a nickel less. The INS rate's the same. And so the total tax rate's dropped by a nickel. The appraisal district gives us the average home values. In 1920, the average home was value, or taxable value, was $149,257. This year it's $163,970, an increase of $14,000. And you can see the taxes on the average home would go up $138.22. And that's the presentation. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Thank you, Dr. Bigby. Any questions for Dr. Bigby? Okay. Okay. With there being no public discussion, the public meeting is now closed. Thank you for your participation. The meeting is now closed. Thank you, Dr. Bigby.
My pleasure.
We will now move to action item B on the adoption of the tax rate for 2019-2020 fiscal year for the general fund and debt service fund. And the presenter is Dr. Bigby.
Thank you again. As mentioned in the presentation, we're recommending a maintenance and operation tax rate of 1.0176 and a debt service tax rate of 35 cents for a total tax rate of 136.76. Entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions for Dr. Bigby? Okay. Dr. Bigby, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
And I know you're up next to get, you have another one, but we're going to go to the motion for this one. Okay, do I have a motion in regards to the adoption of the tax rate for the 2020-2021 fiscal year for the general fund and debt service fund?
So moved.
Trustee Phil McNeely moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Janet Veracruz with the second. Okay. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. Okay, looks like we're ready for the vote on the motion. Adoption of the tax rate for the 2020-2021 fiscal year for the general fund and debt service fund. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton,
Yes.
Carla Fahey,
Yes.
Bill McNeely,
Yes.
Renee McNeely,
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes. Janet Veracruz. Janet,
Yes.
thank you. Motion passed 6-0. Thank you, board, and thank you, Dr. Bigby. We will now move to action item C to approve this to certify Dallas Central Appraisal District certified rolls for 2020, and the presenter is Dr. Ed Bigby.
Thank you again. Annually, the board is required to adopt the certified roll that's presented by the Dallas Appraisal District. This is on page 77 of your book. It's the values that we just talked about. Shows the taxable values and then the actual market values and how much is actually still under protest. But we'd ask you to adopt the tax roll as presented by the Dallas County Appraisal District.
Thank you, Dr. Bigby. Do I have a motion in regards to to approve the certified? I think I said that wrong. Do I have a motion in regards to the approval to certify Dallas Central Appraisal District certified rolls for 2020?
I move we accept as presented the certified tax rolls.
Thank you, Trustee Phil McNeely. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Renee McNeely seconded. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. Okay, we are ready for the vote on the motion to approve to certify Dallas Central Appraisal District certified rolls for 2020. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colson,
Yes.
Carla Fahey,
Yes.
Bill McNeely,
Yes.
Renee McNeely,
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes. Janet Veracruz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Motion passed 6-0. Okay, we will now move to action item E, local policy update 115, and the presenter is Dr. Melissa Cates.
Thank you, Madam President, school board
You're
members, and Dr.
welcome.
Smith. Tonight we have that update 115, and it's the second reading of our update 115. Under our board policies, we're required to read them twice. The first time was the information item, which was last month. We have 13 policies that we are asking you to vote on tonight, and essentially they're in 4 different categories. The first set of policies have to do with the updates to Title IX and the federal regulations, and it's bringing our district into compliance with the Title IX. The second set of policies have to do with the changes to the administrative code, and that are carrying over from the 86th legislative session. So those are things such as credit for students that are classified as homeless, the time to take attendance, and revisions to the child abuse and neglect policies. The third set of policies are complaints, and this is just a very minimal complaint for our grievance policies. And basically what this policy does is changes the wording to say people that want to file a grievance have 90 calendar days. So those policies just add that word calendar. And then finally, the fourth set are deletions of 3 local policies. As we've been advised by TASB Legal Services and the TASB Policy Services, several of our local policies should be addressed in administrative regulations. And so there are 3 policies that they are recommending for us to remove from local policies and have them become administrative regulations. So those are an overview of the 13 policies that we're asking for you all to approve for this update, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Cates. Do I have a motion in regards to the local policy update 115?
I move to approve.
Trustee Janet Vera Cruz moved.
Second.
Trustee Phil McNeely seconded the motion. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. Trustee Fahey, you need to unmute.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Carla Fahey, and I have a question. This is in regards, it's comparing the employee wording and student wording. On page 93, it talks about employee welfare. Page 123 is student rights and responsibilities. And where it lists the alleged discrimination, and it lists race, color, religion, sex, those items. Well, in the okay, red, when it's red and crossed out, that means it's deleted. But if it's blue, it's the new text. Well, in the gender, the word gender is deleted in the employee, page 93, but not in the student on 123. Is there a reason? I mean, I'm just looking at the consistency. Is there a reason?
Thank you for your question, Ms. Fahey. Let me pull this up really quick and make sure I can answer your question. If you can give me just a second.
It's 90 on pages 93 and 123.
Okay, you'll see in the DIA for the employee welfare.
Yes.
They take out the gender in red, but at the bottom they bring it back in. So they call it gender identity, and then gender stereotype. So it's further described, and in the blue right underneath that paragraph on page 93.
It was just chosen not to do it with the student rights and responsibilities.
Let me look at that one as well.
Okay.
Apologize, I'm trying to get there. 1 second. Okay, when it talks about that, it's under the Title IX. And 1 second, let me pull this up for you. Okay, if you go to page 113, it's the second page of FFH local.
113?
Yes, page 2 of 10. It pulls in that gender-based harassment. And the reason why they made this change, it was the federal regulations and a couple of court cases cases, I believe. So it's in there. It's just aligned with those court cases and then the federal policy. So they changed the way the wording is. So they have it in there. It just isn't in the exact same place.
Okay, I knew you'd know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Fahey. Thank you, Dr. Cates. Any other questions, comments, discussions? Okay.
Madam
So I don't want to miss. Yes, Trustee Colton.
So, Dr. Cates, the administrative rules that will replace the policies, are they already, have you already prepared them? Or has the district already prepared them?
Okay, if I understand your question, are you asking specifically on these 3 policies that we're asking to remove and put them into administrative regulations?
Yeah, what is the timeline on it?
At this time, since they were still in local policy, they haven't actually been written into the regulations, but as soon as the board passes, we should have those relatively quickly. I would say within a week or 2, they should be updated. And we also have a program that we use for administrative regulations called Texas School Procedures. And a lot of those policies are already tied in there into the administrative regulations as well. So we'll be able to pull from those.
Okay, and then I have a question regarding the equal educational opportunity. If a parent requests to review their students' educational records, how long does the district have to provide those records?
It's 45 days from the date of the request.
Okay.
And I'm not sure the exact policy that is under, but it is 45 days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Colton. Thank you again, Dr. Cates. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. Looks like we are ready for the vote on the motion. Local Policy Update 115. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton,
Yes.
Carla Fahey,
Yes.
Phil McNeely,
Yes.
Renee McNeely,
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes. Janet Vera Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. The motion has passed 6-0. Okay. We will now move to action item G, asynchronous learning plan. The presenter is Dr. Kathy Sewell.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present to you the Duncanville ISD asynchronous learning plan. I do have an accompanying PowerPoint presentation. There it is. So it is now loaded for your preview. So if we can go to our first slide and change slides, thank you. I want to start out with just explaining to you all that the asynchronous learning plan is a state designed and a state crafted format. And so this framework is not designed by the school district, it is designed by TEA. And so as our school district and other school districts across the state apply for and submit their asynchronous plans to the Texas Education Agency, we are all following a similar framework. Our plans will be community responsive and, obviously aligned with what we have in our school districts. So they'll vary from district to district, but those overall templates and requirements are in place by the Texas Education Agency. So as you will see here, we have our instructional expectations, design. We do have to include sample schedules. We have to report on progress and academic feedback, our teacher professional development, our parent support, and also special services support for students. So I'll go over these very quickly with you all to cover our plan in our next slide. So our first area for instructional expectations, the remote instruction which would be virtual instruction where we are currently operating, and then also remote instruction for when and if we have cases of COVID where a classroom or a school may have to temporarily go to virtual as part of being remotely prepared for that learning design. So for remote instruction, we will have our teachers engaged in Google Classrooms with posted assignments and videos. Our early childhood students and teachers will also be on a platform called Seesaw, which allows for students to use iPads and phone applications to create and really express themselves in a much more creative way. We are also having our teachers offer instruction with live opportunities as well as independent opportunities, and then they will be expected to follow the grading guidelines that were in place prior to COVID. And then again, as a comparable response, the students will also have access to the live time and recorded videos for anytime learning access. They will be expected to log into their Google Classroom or their Seesaw Classroom and complete their assignments daily. And they will also be expected to turn in assignments to follow the grading guidelines that's been established by the district. Next slide. And then in our design, we are offering set times for teacher office hours. We are offering times for questions, for student questions and live instruction, as well as through the Google Classroom by phone calls or email, whichever way students need to communicate with their teachers. We do have time set in the schedule either through small group, intervention, or office hours. And then for students, they will know that they are expected to complete their assignments daily. We do expect them to participate, ask questions so they know the material and that they're able to show mastery either in lifetime instruction, during office hours or intervention, as well as when they send their assignments in through Google Classroom. Okay, next slide. And so a day in the life of a student, we are sending in our sample schedules, and what the state expects us to do is to have predictable, sufficient time in our schedules at each campus to support learning and teacher and student interaction. That we have teacher availability, that is, the times are set, it's predictable, it's sufficient for students to have academic progress, and that we have those published for our students and parents. And that also we have to allow for time for students to access instructional support, whether it's in small group, intervention classes, during office hours, or through email and phone calls. Okay, our next slide. And then we will also have our teachers where they're checking academic progress. And so we will ask for students and require students to submit items daily for teachers to appropriately monitor that they are progressing within the curriculum. So teachers will be expecting completed assignments. They'll also be, possibly assigning a variety of things that will be, a teacher to student, a classroom teacher decision, whether they would like to get an exit ticket where students summarize their learning or different activities. They also will be looking for iStation activity in progress, as well as activities assigned in Edgenuity and Achieve 3000 at the various grade levels. And the last piece here, we have an intervention and tracking report document that we do use for students that may be experiencing some learning setbacks or need some extra support and help. And so teachers will have this in order to track accommodations or extra support that they need to provide and document on a case-by-case basis, because many of our students will have different needs. Okay, our next slide. And then we'll also have an expectation for teachers to provide feedback. As you all know, as our Board of Trustees, historically, we always provide 3-week progress reports, 9-week report cards with grades. So we will continue to support those progress checks with timely progress reports, and then also our report cards. We're also explaining and telling students and parents that they do have to complete an assignment every day. Those are important for us to be able to monitor their progress as well as to show participation. For students who need maybe a little extra support or additional feedback, Again, our teachers and students will be communicating in our teaching and learning environment, and some students will get more feedback than others based upon what their individual needs are with their teacher. And then also we have our teachers maintaining a contact log so that we know that students who are needing more support, that our teachers are documenting that they're conducting that support with our parents and with our children. And they will be required to have descriptions of those conversations and show due diligence that they're supporting our students, both during instruction and outside of instruction as needed. Next slide. And then we have our special program support for special services. As you can see, there's a list of all of the different students and needs and programs and excellent services that each of our departments provide for students and based upon their needs. And so with that, each special service and program has an identified plan that our departments are facilitating and supporting with our schools and with our students. So we have special services in line for all the students as needed. Our next slide. And then there is a required professional development element. And so we have provided technology PD, technology virtual PD, and for teachers to be able to learn and have different tools in their toolbox, not only setting up Google Classrooms and virtual instruction at the beginning of school, like for the first day of class and the first week of class, but we are requiring our educators to engage in 6 hours of virtual professional development every 9 weeks. And that is because not only does the state expect that continuous learning to move forward within the 9 weeks grading period, each 9 weeks, we also have to have, again, more tools in their toolbox. And so teachers can access that through self-paced learning, recorded videos, they can join webinars. They have a real big variety of opportunities. As you can see, there's 30 recorded topics available where they can take quizzes, they can show evidence of the webinars that they engage in. And we have our teacher specialists, our instructional technology team, as well as our library media specialists supporting this effort on all fronts. Our next slide. And then we have our parent support, where our family engagement team has been out in Zoom, if you will, with webinars and seminars, answering parents' questions, just being available for them to really reopen school. And on an ongoing basis, as you can see, we have regularly scheduled workshops and training for parents, not only for just now and for opening school, but these will be ongoing throughout the school year. And so as we transition to different times and back into in-person learning, whenever that case may be, there will be more training and support for our parents as we make transitions and as they need that support and help. It's not only instructional, it's just a variety of things for health and safety, as well as personal hygiene practices and just things that are really beneficial for the whole child and the whole family. We have materials and training in Spanish and English, and our support plan will be throughout this entire school year. Our next slide. And lastly, I wanted to provide the Board of Trustees just with a little context and understanding of where we go from now. And so we're asking your approval tonight for the asynchronous learning plan to be submitted to the Texas Education Agency. And the process for approval is noted here in this slide. We were required to send in a letter of intent prior to the first day of instruction, which we did in July. And then we have to submit this plan through the first phase of board approval. And then it must be submitted online to the Texas Education Agency before October the 1st. And we have attestations, which are statements, basically guaranteeing that we have a plan for everything they want us to do, as well as you can see in the plan, we've answered all of the open-ended questions that they presented to us for response. And then our plans must be approved by TEA. We have until the end of the second 9 weeks. That's our grace period across the state. And so when we submit the plans, if they want revisions or have any things that they would like to have amended, we'll have plenty of time to do that in order to fulfill any revisions they would like starting for the third 9 weeks, which will be the end of the grace period. And so they will provide us notification of that. And then if we have to resubmit, we will do so within that time period. My goal is not to have to resubmit. And so I look forward to answering any questions that you all may have regarding this timeline or anything else regarding information and designs that we've placed in the plan. The entire curriculum and instruction team is here in the board meeting this evening. Each person, as well as other officials and leaders in the district, have put a lot of time and thought into supporting this plan for our students and our community. So I welcome any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Dr. Sewell. Do I have a motion in regards to the asynchronous learning plan? You will need to unmute, please.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Renee McNeely moved, and was that Trustee Carla Fahey that seconded? No? Okay.
Colton.
Oh, sorry. I just heard a voice. Sorry. Trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the motion. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. Any questions for Dr. Sewell? Comments?
I have a question. This is
Trustee Colton?
okay. So this plan is to be submitted to the state by October 1st.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. And so, okay. All right. I guess I just needed to clarify that. But what are we currently doing?
As part of our instructional plan that's currently operating?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you for that question. We are engaged in this plan as we speak.
Okay.
So what this plan does is basically, it is curating all of the work that we have been doing all summer, leading to this point to train, inform, put special programs together, supports for students that need it for special services, as well as parent support. So all of these things have been happening week by week, leading from the summer through August till now. And so we've curated everything that has happened and the work that we've done and made sure that it's aligned to what TEA expects and that it's a best practice in our district for our students.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I realize we're only 2 weeks into the current school year, but how is it working currently?
So you are correct. We've just begun this journey with instruction. And so our teachers, as Dr. Smith mentioned, we did have a few technicalities with ClassLink, but things have been working really well in terms of live instruction and teachers being able to connect with students and in those environments, as well as students being able to turn in their work. We're still under the grace period, so that, if there are some things that we have to work out with students and their technology, or, that communication with teachers, we'll be working through those details and, just improving as we go along. But as far as the first couple of weeks of school, teachers have been connecting with students, and we've been, looking to track down students that maybe haven't been connecting. And so it's all fluid, and we're just moving forward with this plan in place. And we'll have our first progress report coming up in about a week.
Okay. And then also, are there any automatic alerts, like if a student fails to turn in their assignments, are there any, automatic alerts that the teacher receives?
That is a great question. In terms of the details for that, we have asked that our teachers be sure to monitor the Google Classroom and to monitor their interactions with students. Much of that goes through Dr. Halachka's team and attendance in terms of monitoring that students are actually participating on a daily basis. We also are able to help parents with Skyward. And so if assignments need to be monitored in Skyward, there is a way to program that so parents can get automatic alerts. And so that is available. And I know Ms. Zamora and her team have shared that with parents to train them and to show them that that tool is there for them as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Colton. Dr. Sewell, thank you for the report. Okay, any other questions, comments, or discussions before we?
I do,
Trustee Vera Cruz.
Madam President, this is Janet Vera Cruz, and I have a question. How are parents faring? Are you finding parents are asking questions, you know, towards their kids' assignments? Are they being, are they asking for help since the tool is there?
Oh, for the Skyward tool?
Yes.
I'd like to defer that question to Madi Zamora because her team, oh, and Dr. Holochka may have some input on that as well, but her team has been engaged a lot with the parent phone calls, and they are assigned to various campuses to be that liaison to connect. And so, Ms. Zamora, if you'd be able to unmute and share with Ms. Vera Cruz and the board some of the experiences and feedback you've received from parents.
Good evening. Thank you for your question. Yes, we've had a lot of parents call and question and just got some connection concerns and how to get connected with teachers. One of the reasons why we added a session, we actually just had it last week on how to get parents connected to Skyward. They can set up to kind of get those alerts. And so, yeah, they've been able to connect with teachers that way. We also cover Google Classroom. We showed them how to go and look for the assignments the teachers are giving. So some of those sessions were based on the questions we were getting early on in the first webinars, because parents are very much interested in how to keep up. You know, they want to do their best for their child. And so those questions have come across. Our liaisons have been answering and addressing those. We've also gone back to referred to the district website as well and try to provide as much answers as we can. All of the questions that came through in the webinars, we kind of compiled them and then gave them to communications and put them on the frequently asked questions list so all parents would have access.
Good.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zamora. Appreciate your team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vera Cruz, Ms. Zamora, Dr. Sewell. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, looks like we are ready for the vote on the motion. The asynchronous learning plan, as I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of, or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton.
Yes.
Carla Fahey. Yes. Phil McNeely.
Yes.
Renee McNeely.
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips, yes. And Janet Vera Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you, board. The motion has passed 6-0. We will now move to action item H, reopening plan update, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Board members, tonight we will be providing you an update on our reopening plan. I think this may be the third or fourth update that we have provided for you since we started developing our plan. And so you'll be hearing from, of course, myself and other members of the senior leadership team who are responsible for some of the very specific areas within the plan. And then, of course, I will be bringing forward a very specific recommendation based on data, based on careful planning and study with my team and I, and based on what we view as the best interest of Duncanville ISD. You could go ahead and advance the slide, please. So just to kind of give you some context, I want to provide a review for you of some of the most recent COVID-19 data. I have shared with the board that I am continuing to have weekly meetings with the Dallas County health officials, which include Judge Clay Jenkins. And I've also shared with the board the role of the Public Health Committee. Judge Jenkins developed this Public Health Committee made up of several medical professionals to be able to provide superintendents guidance on opening school. And so these medical professionals, they have indeed provided that guidance and provided advice for us on how to open schools in a safe manner during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a district, we have incorporated those plans and their guidance within our reopening plan. They've produced a document called the Health Guidance for the Public. It's listed there. The image is shown there on the PowerPoint. But this document can also be reviewed on the Dallas County Health website. And basically what the document includes is several safety steps. It summarizes the work of the Public Health Committee that Judge Jenkins established and that we are able to engage with them on a weekly basis. According to the Dallas County health officials, the risk level has moved from red, which is stay at home, safe, very restricted environments, to orange, which relaxes the stay at home restrictions. And so according to their website, the data continues to trend in a very positive direction. You may have recalled even on last Thursday, September 17th, Governor Abbott held a press conference in which he expanded the capacity of certain services for the majority of the state of Texas. The UIL also has published their risk mitigation guidelines, basically allowing spectators up to a maximum of 50% capacity, requiring face coverings, and required screenings of taking temperature of all athletes and students participating in UIL sports. All fall sports and UIL activities are fully operational, and games and competitions are allowed to occur at this time at all levels. All of this information has been considered as we make plans of moving forward. We realize we have to rely on the health officials. We realize we have to rely on the data. And if the data was trending in a negative direction, of course, that would influence the decisions that we're making. But the data at this point in time is continuing to trend in a very positive direction. Please advance to the next slide, please. This slide and this timeline is a very important part of this presentation. I want to really walk you through that to give you a deep understanding of what my thinking is as it relates to what we should be doing moving forward. As you can see, our first day of school was on September 8th, and we chose to take the first 4 weeks to engage in virtual learning with a hybrid model at the high school. And we chose that because at that time, the data was unlike what we see today. The risk level was on red, and there was a stay-at-home order in place with very specific restrictions for schools. So we felt at that time we needed to take advantage of the first 4 weeks to be able to transition. We also were listening to our stakeholders at that time because 70% of them were selecting virtual learning and 30% were selecting in-person learning. And so it was in our best interest at that time that we take those first 4 weeks to be able to make a transition smoothly into the next phase of our program. And so we've done that. Now, if you look at the timeline, what you'll notice is that the first week for us to return back to in-person would be October 5th. That's only 2 weeks from now. And so that is not enough time for us to be able to manage all the logistics and come back face-to-face October 5th. So because of that, that's one of the reasons that I am bringing forward a recommendation that we take advantage of the second set of additional 4 weeks that the Texas Education Agency allows us to seek in the form of a waiver. That would allow us to be able to accomplish several things. If we took those second set of 4 weeks, that puts us at a maximum of time to re-engage students face-to-face at November the 2nd. So taking advantage of those second set of 4 weeks, that 4-week period would end November 2nd. It's quite a long time for our students to still be engaged virtually. We know there are parents that still want face-to-face instruction. And so what I am recommending tonight as we move forward in our plan is that, one, we take advantage of the waiver that TEA offers, giving us a maximum of another 4 weeks, November 2nd, before we begin to phase in-person learning. However, I am proposing that we transition on October 19th. Transitioning on October 19th would allow us as a staff time to plan accordingly. And there are very specific reasons and advantages that I think are important for us as to a October 19th start of face-to-face. So as we look at students, parents, and staff, beginning first with our students, we certainly need to get our students back in the learning environment. We have heard feedback from several of our parents of this need and this desire to get their students back. Some of our students are definitely losing ground by not being in the learning environment. They've not been in class since March. Many of our special education students have been without some of those services that they need so desperately to keep them developing. And then the support and the emotional needs that our students generally get when they are in school face-to-face, they have been without that support. And the social emotional aspect that our kids are losing and experiencing during this time, it is indeed going to have an impact when we get them back face-to-face. And then, of course, we know we're not a one-to-one district at this point in time in terms of devices. And so we still will have to work through the process of trying to support every student that we know does not have a device at this time. And so those are just some of the benefits and advantages of coming back in a phase-in approach on October 19th, how that would benefit our students. From a parent standpoint, I mentioned to you the challenging time that our parents are having trying to support the current learning model at home. And many of our parents are experiencing a lot of stress associated with that, whether it be getting back to work or just being at home trying to facilitate the learning of their students. And then from a staffing standpoint, of course, we need time to plan. It's kind of difficult to even quantify all the moving parts that go into putting a plan in place to get students back transition face-to-face. It is indeed very tedious work across 18 campuses and many, many students. And so we need adequate time to plan. Having a transition date of October 19th gives us about 3 weeks to be able to put a plan in place to identify and contact those parents that have selected face-to-face, see if they still desire to have that face-to-face, and then be able to communicate to our teachers appropriately, communicate to our principals, really all of our stakeholders that would be involved in meeting the needs of the students as we transition back in. It also allows us to begin looking at what changes we'll have to make as it relates to the 9-week schedule, because there will be parents, we anticipate, that selected virtual that may now want face-to-face because of all the reasons that I've outlined. And of course, we have allowed parents to be able to make that adjustment after the first grading period. And so we need to be able to manage all of that scheduling and what that's going to mean. So with the campuses, so it's just going to take time for us to do that. And this allows us to have the time to be able to transition those students back. You know, our counselors, our administrators all of those that are involved in the scheduling and building a master schedule has a lot of moving parts. And so we just simply are going to be able to need the time to do that. So as you hear the plan this evening, the specific recommendation again is to accept the waiver that TEA has afforded school districts in Texas to take advantage of the 4 weeks. That 4 weeks will put us at November 2nd. Quite a long time for students who don't have a computer, for parents who are still struggling. So what we're wanting to do is we will phase in our students beginning October 19th, which will be some relief for those parents. It's not November 2nd, it's much sooner than that. And that still allows us time to be able to plan. I think this is consistent with the data that we're seeing. This is consistent with what we're seeing in schools, school districts all around us that are already back face-to-face. And I think this is consistent with our reopening plan that we've been working on so diligently in preparing for this very moment in time, for all the safety protocols that we have in place, and all the transitioning that we know we're going to have to put in place at the campus level to manage all those moving parts. And so that's really the core of the recommendation that we'll be bringing to you on this evening. And I'm going to ask Dr. Halachka to begin the next phase of the information. You'll hear from other senior leadership team members that own critical parts. And then certainly as you process this information, I'm sure you have a lot on your mind, and we want to be here to answer any questions that you may have. So we'll transition to Dr. Halachka.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. I am so excited to share with you this evening some of the data and supports associated with the district's virtual reopening of school. Tonight, we will be discussing 5 key areas of focus, including an overview of our virtual instructional school day, the supports we're providing to teachers, staff, and parents, as well as the social emotional supports provided to students. We will also discuss our virtual learning timeline and waiver. The first 2 weeks of school have proven to be very promising in regards to student enrollment and engagement. Currently, our enrollment is remaining steady at 96% of our projection. Considering the impact of COVID, this number indicates our parents are still choosing to enroll their students in Duncanville ISD. As would be expected, our highest enrollment numbers are at our intermediate, middle, and high school levels. Elementary numbers are lower due to parents selecting to delay the enrollment of our youngest learners, our pre-K and kindergarten students. We anticipate, however, these numbers will increase when we return to face-to-face instruction. In addition to our students enrolling in school, we're also seeing a strong percentage of students engaging daily. Although our attendance average is slightly lower than prior year, we foresee this increasing when students return in person as well. As you heard in Dr. Sewell's asynchronous plan presentation, a student's virtual day is very similar to a regular school day. Their day starts and ends at a normal time, and they are held to the state attendance requirements. The only key difference is that students have until 11:59 p.m. to engage in one of 3 ways in order to be counted in attendance. The district has provided sample schedules on our website to help support both parents and students in grasping the new normal of a virtual school day and the increased expectations from the springtime remote experience. Although our students are not in a regular in-person classroom, our high standards for student behavior remain consistent. All campuses have been provided our virtual learning behavior guidelines. Campus leaders have discussed them with their teachers to ensure the virtual learning environment is structured and well managed for the benefit of all students. Now that you've had a peek inside the instructional learning day of our students, I'd like to discuss with you the support we're providing for our parents. In Duncanville ISD, we see our parents as partners, and this has never been more true than during this time. Over the past several weeks, our family engagement team has coordinated 5 different webinars for families in both English and in Spanish. Each webinar was offered twice to families on topics related to the reopening, and then the recordings were posted on our website for those who were unable to attend. With a participation rate of 464 parents attending live and another 391 viewing the online recordings, it is evident that parents found this level of support valuable. In addition to the webinars, we also wanted to give parents a glimpse into a student's virtual school day and what it might look like. We recognize this is a very new experience for both students and parents, and it was important for us to not only tell them, but to show them what virtual learning might consist of at home. The short video, we gave them a short video walking them through a virtual school day, and we released the video in both English and in Spanish. Of course, as anticipated, we knew technology was going to be a challenge since many of our families were unfamiliar with some of the learning programs and technology applications that we utilize routinely in our classrooms. Therefore, one-pager infographic style guides were provided for families with links and videos for supporting their child with learning programs such as Achieve 3000 and iStation. Parents were also provided a very comprehensive website of videos, resources, and how-tos to support them in guiding their students through the learning process. However, we know that the needs of our parents vary just like the needs of our students. Therefore, we also wanted to ensure parents had the opportunity to just pick up the phone and call and ask for help if they needed, which is why the technology hotline was created. This was a very popular and well-received resource for our families, and the staff members working the hotline commented repeatedly about the appreciation and understanding of our parents as we worked through foreseen technical newness associated with the first few days of school. In addition to the technology how-tos and hotline, we can't move on without sharing about our 6 device deployment opportunities. With the help of numerous staff members, our team was able to support parents by deploying over 4,000 devices to DeVille homes. Whether the need was a computer or internet access, Duncanville worked to take care of the digital needs of our students and equip them with the learning resources necessary for engagement. Mrs. Cowan will be sharing more in her upcoming presentation. We know that in order to provide comprehensive wraparound supports for our students, we must go beyond providing just academic supports. We must also address the social and emotional challenges our students have been faced with inside and outside of the pandemic. To prepare our staff members, our support counselors provided a significant number of training opportunities to equip teachers, counselors, and district and campus leaders on how to identify and address the SEL needs of our students. In addition to training staff members, our counselors throughout the district have cared for students through thousands of virtual counseling sessions, guidance lessons, and academic planning, all done virtually. However, their support, of course, did not stop there. They also provided additional supports and resources for students and parents, as well as addressing the social and emotional needs of our staff members. If you've not had a chance to check out the virtual calming rooms, I would like to encourage you to go to the counseling department's webpage on the Duncanville ISD site and enjoy the calming power of watching live animals, or listening to calming music, or playing a mindless game. The virtual calming rooms are a great way for a child and adults to briefly escape the stress associated with the pandemic. For sake of time this evening, I will not play the SEL video here, but I do encourage you to take time to watch some of these quick views and see the great tips being provided to students, staff, and families on topics like positivity, stress management, and more. All of the videos are in English and Spanish, and new videos are being added continuously. In order to effectively reopen school, it was pivotal that we also provide supports to equip, we provided these supports to equip our students and parents. However, it was equally important that we equip our teachers. As has been mentioned a few times this evening, our teachers were provided with extensive training opportunities prior to the start of school, in order to prepare them for addressing and minimizing the learning slide associated with COVID. So in order to ensure teachers are differentiating instruction based on the individual learning needs of students, prioritizing those key learning standards, and being equipped to effectively instruct in a digital environment, it was important that we give teachers ample time to learn, practice new skills, and process effective strategies for closing these learning gaps of our students. So now that you've heard a few things about the supports we've provided, I will now turn it over to Ms. Kathleen Brown to tell you more about how we are helping our teachers and our staff.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Smith, Board of Trustees. It is my pleasure to present to you an update related to COVID-19 and staff members. The safety of our students and our staff is of utmost importance to the district. So although COVID-19 has provided a wide variety of obstacles, Duncanville ISD has planned proactively, and we're implementing these processes with fidelity. Also, as you're aware, we implemented a daily screener through urgent care, families, and kids for our staff members. This screener is utilized daily by our staff prior to reporting to work. If a staff member indicates that they have symptoms of COVID-19, they are contacted by an HR team member who walks them through next steps. Employees also now have the option through this screener to be connected with a telehealth representative if they indicate that they have symptoms of COVID-19 on their daily screener. If they choose this option, the telehealth doctor meets with the employee virtually to discuss their symptoms and to give them medical guidance, which could include visiting a testing site for a rapid COVID-19 test. Duncanville ISD is also utilizing staff and student self-reporting forms. These forms are used by staff members who've tested positive for COVID-19 or have been exposed to COVID-19, or for staff members who may just be awaiting results of a COVID-19 test. All employees who complete a staff self-reporting form are contacted within 24 hours, including weekends, by an HR team member. If the staff member has been exposed to COVID-19, they are given guidance on next steps. If the staff member has symptoms of COVID-19 and are awaiting results, a plan is created to allow the employee to work virtually when they're able to, until their results are received in collaboration with the campus or the department supervisor. If a staff member tests positive for COVID-19, I'll outline for you what the steps are that we take at that time. So if an employee self-reports that they have tested positive for COVID-19, they first provide documentation of their positive test result. At that point, contact tracing takes place and is implemented to determine who the staff member has been in close contact with. And when we speak of close contact, we mean within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. And also as a district, we are considering whether or not the individuals had on their masks. That is a factor in considering if they were in close contact. So during contact tracing, we are also looking at the 48 hours preceding when the employee developed symptoms or when they received a positive test result. And that 48 hours is very critical. So it's not everyone that they've come into contact with ever. It's those 48 hours preceding that positive test result or when they develop symptoms. After that, written communication is sent to the superintendent, of course, first, and then to the principal or department supervisor and appropriate senior leadership team member for their awareness of a positive case at their campus or district facility. However, staff members' names are not released for confidentiality purposes. Each employee that has been determined to have had close contact or possible exposure receives a phone call for their awareness. At times, staff members may not answer the phone, but that is our first effort is to contact them by phone, give them a personal call to let them know if they have been determined to have had close contact or if they've had a possible exposure. Those phone calls are then followed up with a letter from the district that tells them what their next steps are. If they've had close contact, what the quarantine period would be and when their expected return would be. And if they've had possible exposure, thanking them for following the protocols of the district and also speaking to them about monitoring their health. Okay. In addition to the aforementioned steps, when we have a positive COVID-19 case, we are learning a lot in these new processes that we are implementing as a district. And so as we've received feedback, our processes have been tweaked. So in addition to those items that I've mentioned, we also have implemented a campus-wide or facility-wide communication that has been sent out beginning last week. So if we have a positive case at a campus or a district facility, in addition to the individuals who've had close contact or possible exposure, there is communication that goes out to the entire campus or the entire facility, making them aware that a positive case has happened at their location. Now that is a positive thing because we want to be transparent in our communication as it relates to COVID. And so there are some pros with that transparent communication. However, I do want you all to be aware that that also comes with some challenges. As you can imagine, receiving an email saying that there has been a positive case at your campus or your department, it raises some concerns, some valid concerns of our staff members. One of the things that is a positive is it is a constant reminder to our staff members to remain vigilant during this time. So encouraging them to continue to keep their mask on. Sometimes when staff members are around people every day, they'll tend to let their guards down. You know, I'm with this person every day, so I don't have my mask on all times. And so that communication, when there's a positive case, it reminds our staff members of those protocols. And that's just that extra layer of protection to make sure that they are implementing the protocols with fidelity. So one example of the challenges that comes with this is at one of our campuses, a real example is that upon receiving communication of a positive case at their campus, the staff members became alarmed, and we had over 15 staff members the next day who took off because they wanted to get a COVID test. They just wanted to be certain that they had not been exposed, even though they were not identified in that contact tracing process. And we anticipate that as we communicate about this. The first time you get that type of email, it is alarming. And so we anticipated that. However, with that, that reactiveness to that communication, it does provide challenges as it relates to us making sure instruction and things are still happening seamlessly in our instructional plan. So the other thing Dr. Smith has talked to you about, the dashboard, you can see that here on the screen. It's another way in which the district is keeping all stakeholders informed of active COVID-19 cases in the district. So as of Friday, there were 3 active student cases, as you can see there, and 9 active staff cases. These numbers are updated daily, so we updated these today as well. And it's important to note that the dashboard only refers to active cases. So these are employees or students who have tested positive for COVID-19 and they are currently quarantined. As they return, they are removed from the active cases dashboard. If new cases are reported, they are added to the dashboard until such time that they are cleared to return. And so those are the active cases. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay. Although supporting our staff and our teachers with professional learning experiences and with new processes related to COVID-19, it was also necessary for us to help minimize their fears and concerns associated with COVID. We know we can't completely get rid of all concerns and fears because they are very real. Therefore, our district has gone above and beyond to outfit staff and district facilities with ample PPE and sanitation tools so that they feel more confident in the protections that are provided. And there are lists again of those PPE and sanitation tools that have been provided: 160,000 masks, 14,000 packages of disinfecting wipes, 2,400 bottles of sanitizers, 2,150 face shields, all of the infrared thermometers, most recently the 1,200 misters that we've received positive feedback on from our staff. They are very excited about that. The touchless hand sanitizers for our campuses, as well as for our buses. And so we know that we're in this together and that we're going to continue writing success stories even during this time. And I would be happy to answer any questions you have related to COVID-19 and staff here in Duncanville ISD.
I just have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm very excited about the information that you gave us, especially about the dashboard, I believe, as I've seen other districts utilize that. And I think that'll be helping staff and families keep up with that. And I appreciate the updates on that on a daily basis as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Brown. As we've shared with you this evening, we have been very proactive in providing supports to our students, parents, and staff for a successful reopening of school. However, we know it is critical that we continue to evaluate data to determine when our district will move from a virtual learning environment to an in-person reopening of our campuses. Based on the voices of our stakeholders, advice of medical experts, and pandemic trends, we feel it's in the best interest of our staff and students to submit a waiver to the state requesting an additional 4 weeks of virtual learning. Although we do not anticipate extending our reopening the full 4 weeks, as Dr. Smith shared, we want ample opportunity to prepare. We are anticipating an October 19th transitional start date with the approximate 28% of students that selected in person as their learning preference. We know that some parents that initially selected virtual will want to move to face-to-face. However, we will be slow in allowing this transition and until the end of the first 9 weeks. The process for requesting a change will be communicated to families through our website. So therefore, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve the state waiver to extend the virtual schooling for an additional 4 weeks for grades pre-K through 8th and provide a hybrid option of limited students on campus at Duncanville High School. Thank you for the opportunity to share our progress with reopening schools, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Thank you, Dr. Smith and Mrs. Brown. We thank you all. Do I have a motion in regards to the reopening plan update?
So moved.
Trustee Phil McNeely moved and
Second.
Trustee Carla Fahey seconded the motion. Okay, if the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time.
I have a question. This is Janet Veracruz.
Go ahead.
So my question is, I want to make sure I understand. For the hybrid option for high school, does that mean that teachers will be responsible for teaching virtually and in person, or just strictly in person with the hybrid schedule?
Mrs. Brown, would you like to respond to that?
Absolutely. With the hybrid model, we will have teachers who will teach both in person and virtually as it relates to our students. We've done a really great job as a staff scheduling our students that way as they are now. So students who selected in person, we have clustered those students to the best of our ability together at the secondary level so that when they come back, they will go into a classroom where that teacher is already prepared to teach in person. But the students just are in a virtual setting as of right now. So they will come back and follow their schedule. They've just been virtual for the first 4 weeks of school, if that helps. At the elementary level, however, our teachers, based on the number of students we have, some of our teachers will have the need to teach both in person and virtually, and the sample schedules are designed in a way that allow for that to happen.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
Janet, Trustee Veracruz, did that answer your question?
It does. I'm processing it all.
Okay, well, Trustee Veracruz processes that. I do have a comment. I would just like to say that we know this is a very difficult time for difficult decisions to be made, but your efforts are appreciated.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we do understand it is a lot to process. We spent Yeah, thank you, Madam President, for that. We do understand that this is a lot to process, and we want to make sure we do our due diligence in helping our board to understand. We as a team have spent countless of hours upon hours upon hours trying to put a good plan in place that would uh, allow us to transition smoothly. And so we know that it is a lot to tackle because we go through this on a daily basis. So we really want to make sure that we give you some time this evening to process, and we want to do our best to answer your questions.
And we appreciate you for that. Trustee Colton?
I have some questions, and I do appreciate the diligence and all the time and all the research that has gone into the plan as presented. So one of my questions relates to parental feedback, and I'm assuming that that will take place when students have to choose, I guess, or parents have to choose if they'll be sending their child back to school or whether or not they'll participate virtually. And so is that correct?
Yes, Dr. Lashka, I want to go ahead and.
Sure, absolutely. We did, throughout the enrollment process, parents were given a survey to make a choice in what their learning preference was for their child at that time. And then we will have windows of opportunities where if after the first 9 weeks or even the second or third 9 weeks, they decide that they would like for their child to either come back to an in-person environment or maybe go back to a virtual environment, that they can make that decision during those windows prior to the end of each 9 weeks. And so we will continue that process throughout the year so that parents continuously have a choice every 9 weeks of the learning preference for their students.
Okay, so the second 9 weeks starts October 19th. Is that so? What is the opportunity for parents to select? Would that be 2 or 3 weeks in advance of that date?
Yeah, October 19th is not the end of the first 9 weeks. That's not until November. So, so when we start back October 19th, those will be the students who, upon enrollment, when they enrolled, they selected in person. And there's about 28% of our students that selected in person. So it's a smaller percentage. It gives us an opportunity to do that transitional phase in. And then, so then we will open the window for any parents that have maybe selected virtual for the first 9 weeks, but would like to transition to in-person. It's about a 2-week window in there where they will have the opportunity to make that change. And so for the second 9 weeks, they would then come back to in-person. And we will make sure we communicate that far and wide, and so that they all are aware of that opportunity.
Okay, so it'll be 2 weeks prior to November 5th?
I'd have to look at the calendar specifically I can give you the exact date here if you just give me just a second. The window would be October 12th through 26th.
Okay.
So that it will be the window in which they would be able to make the change in their learning preference.
Okay.
And then the second 9 weeks, that will actually start on November 9th.
Okay.
That gives our campuses a few weeks to actually see what the numbers are that have made the decision to change their learning preference, so that they can, of course, plan accordingly.
Okay, so all parents could expect to receive something during that October 12th through 26th, or the ones, the remaining, what, 72%?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they will all receive communication about this opportunity if they would like to make a change to their child's learning preference. And we say make a change because some may have selected in person and they want to go back to virtual. They want to stay virtual. And so we want to give them that option as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What PPE provisions have we made for students other than touchless sanitizer? Will we have masks and all of that for our students?
Absolutely, but I will turn that over to Mrs. Fields. She's the expert in that area, so I will let her respond to that question more specifically.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka, and good evening, Board President and Board members, and Dr. Smith. Thank you for that question, Ms. Colton. And of course, you perhaps saw on the slide presentation about the masks that are available, the over 120,000 masks. That also includes masks for students. There are some student-sized masks, even for some of our little pre-K, our little ones. There are disposable masks as well as those that are reusable, the ones you see some of us wearing with the logos, etc. So the students will have that. Of course, protecting the students is of utmost importance. So we've deployed all the thermometers out so that when we start doing the screeners, the check-ins, as we're already doing with some of our student groups, those will be available. And of course, there's multiple. If you come to the warehouse tonight, where I am right now, there are pallets full of hand sanitizer that's available, and they'll have their wipes. They can wipe off their spaces. And so we're continuing to garner those not only from what we purchased, but also from what the state has supplied for us. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. And so also, how many students and staff have contracted COVID? Dr. Smith, I guess.
Yeah, Kathleen Brown, you want to pull up the dashboard again? As of the end of today, we had 12. There were 9 staff members and there were 3 students.
Well, that's active, or is that total?
Oh, that's the active ones. That's the active.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was asking like in total.
Okay, cumulatively,
Yes,
I can speak for staff. The number of staff members that we've had that have contracted COVID-19, that includes prior to us returning when they were at home, has been 31 staff members.
Okay.
31 staff members. Since we've returned, since the first day of school, September 8th, there have been 15, and then the active, as of today, we were at 11, but 1 came off, and so we will be at 10. So.
Okay.
I have a question. Piggybacking on.
Go ahead.
Piggybacking off of Ms. Colton, what would constitute the closing of a campus then?
Okay. So based on our flow charts for students and for staff, if a campus is determined to close, of course that's a decision that would be made by our superintendent. And the flow chart currently talks about if we have 4 positive cases at one place within a 2-week window. And so that's another piece of what we are tracking by building location, the number of cases in a 2-week window. That's how we will determine and present that to Dr. Smith for his approval.
Good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Great questions being asked.
Excellent.
Ms. Brown, thank you. Mrs. Fields, thank you. Dr. Halashka, thank you. And Trustee Vera Cruz and Colton, thank you all for the questions. Any other questions, comments, or discussions? Or discussion? No? Okay. I think we are ready for the vote on the motion, reopening plan update. Thank you all, everyone that participated in that. As I call your name, please say yes if you vote in favor of or no if you vote to oppose. Jacqueline Colton?
Yes.
Carla Fahey?
Yes.
Bill McNeely?
Yes.
Renee McNeely?
Yes.
Cassandra Phillips? Yes. Janet Vera Cruz? Janet Vera Cruz?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, great. Motion passed 6-0. Thank you all for your time and effort on that big piece of information that we needed. Okay, we will move to information discussion agenda item annual child nutrition report, and the presenter is Mrs. Andrea Fields.
Again, good evening, board members. And tonight is my pleasure to present to you one of my dynamic servant leaders of the Operations Department, Ms. Donna Woodard Thomas, for our annual child nutrition report. We'll come back at the end if there are any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening. Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith, it's always a pleasure to speak before you about the updates and the highlights of child nutrition. And this evening, I would just like to cover a few of those updates from the last school year. 2019-2020, we participated in the National School Lunch and Breakfast Weeks. We COVID-19 emergency feeding, and we also received awards and recognitions from various people And then we also had a Domino's pizza that you all graciously approved for us. So first, next slide, please. So first, I'd like to talk about the National School Lunch Week. This was a very fun week for all grade levels, K through 12th grade. And some of the pictures here, during lunch, there were numbers that were randomly placed under the students' lunch trays at the elementary level. And if they selected a tray that had the number, then they were presented with an outfit or a superhero outfit, and then we all wore our superhero outfits during lunch on the last day. And so that was a lot of fun, and we had great participation from our staff, as well as the staff, the teachers. They also participated in that. Next slide, please. We also participated, or we had National Breakfast Week, and that was the week of March 2nd through the 6th. One of the things that we did during this week, we had a breakfast week in conjunction with Dr. Seuss's birthday, and the staff, nutrition staff, they dressed up based on a book of the day. And so you can see that Hardin staff, they wore crazy hats to represent the book Cat in the Hat. So each day we had a different book, and we dressed accordingly with Breakfast Week, with National Breakfast Week. Next slide, please. I am so proud of the staff during the emergency shutdown of COVID-19. From March through August, we served over 61,000 meals, total meals to our students. And as you can see, here's some of the pictures where staff was in action. And the middle picture, I just want to share that with you, is that we had staff, and we also had teacher volunteers that were also certified and had a food handler's card that initially also assisted us with distribution of these meals. Next slide, please. During the pandemic, or even though it's still going on, but we had, during the times where we were feeding from August, we had numerous individuals that they thanked us. We had awards from Region 10. We were recognized. You can see one of the pictures shows that we received a cookie cake from one of the managers at the Great American Cookie. And he just sent that as a gesture for their appreciation for serving students in Duncanville. And then you can also see that we received the safety award in our department. And that is a challenge in itself for the type of work that we do every day. So those are a couple of the awards and the recognitions that we received. Next slide, please. Also, last school year, we participated, or we coordinated with Domino's Pizza. And prior to the March shutdown, we had served over 4,000 slices of pizza to students. And so this was a very popular item that students, teachers, and parents were excited about. So we really have created a great relationship with Domino's. Next slide, please. And so now I just want to talk about what's new for 2021. As you know, since the first day of school on August the 8th, we have continued to feed our students. We are feeding them bundles, which consist of 5 breakfasts and 5 lunch. And we serve those out, or distribute those out once a week, and that's on a Tuesday. We have locations at every, well, we have distribution at every campus. And then we also have a distribution in the evening at Maryfield Elementary. And that really is a very popular time. It seems like that when the parents come in the evening, those are our highest numbers, is during the evening at Maryfield. So we, you know, despite all of the menu adjustments we've had to make because of the availability of items, the discontinuation of items, the shortages of items, we have still been able to serve our students, and the students and parents have been very appreciative of this. Now, hopefully, you know, in the near future, we will continue to partner with Domino's, but, you know, this year is going to be a challenging year. But what we will do, if we decide to move forward and utilize Domino's in the upcoming months, it would be very limited with the locations. But, you know, I have talked with them, and they are willing to come in and to provide even at one school if possible. We're looking at the campuses that had, since we did the immediate shutdown, some of those campuses did not have the opportunity to have a full semester where the children actually had the Domino's. So we would like to bring that back if possible. Now, the other thing that we are looking at in this school year, we started in the fall of last school year exploring the transition to community eligibility provision. And so that's one thing that we will hope to continue to explore this school year. And so with community eligibility provision, the students, all the students could eat free in our district, but it's not based on, it would eliminate the lunch applications, and it's based on students that are already, or families that are already receiving SNAP or TANF, some other type of governmental assistance program. So we are looking at this, and hopefully it will be beneficial for us in the upcoming year, where we will be able to serve all of our students lunch free, because currently breakfast is free to all students right now. Okay, do you have any questions at this?
Well, thank you, Mrs. Woodard Thomas and Mrs. Fields. If the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. Trustee Vera Cruz.
Hello. I have a question regarding the bundles. Did you say it was only Tuesday they were passed out?
Yes, ma'am. They're passed out once a week, but it is for 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches. So it's for an entire week. The items that they receive are not cooked. They are frozen, and they are given the instructions on how to cook those items.
Okay. So my next question would be, if I wanted to help a family because they have no way to get there, what would I need to do to show proof that I'm there to pick up for them?
Well, we would need either a student, their most recent report card, which would probably be, it would be last school year. We ask for the student if they have an ID card, report card, birth certificate, any of those items, or any of those are required.
Okay. And you understand, I possibly can't help, and we're all looking to help because it takes a village. And so sometimes the families don't have the means of transportation to get the meals. So I was kind of wondering how can I help?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you.
And also, board, that was one of the reasons for the once a week. We're cognizant of the fact that many parents are limited on the gasoline, etc. So That way, at least they can come once a week, get together, carpool, etc. So we're trying to be sensitive to that because we know that many people are out of work and don't have the gasoline to come each and every day, but they can get the meals for an entire week.
Trustee Colton, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you, Mrs. Fields and Mrs. Thomas. Y'all are just, I mean, this is just a wonderful program and service that we are offering all the students, and y'all have just done an awesome job. And so I would just like to say thank you for that. You know, this is seriously impacting the, you know, health of our students and those that are most vulnerable. And so hats go off to all that you all are doing. And so I have a question. If we've looked at maybe deliveries, you know, to neighborhoods, it could or could not be feasible, but I'm just wondering, you know, because, you know, there are some that may not, you know, have transportation.
Yes, ma'am. That has been something, of course, some other school districts across the state have used their school buses for deliveries. And so with that, because we knew, of course, with a lot of the things logistically at that time when we were at least on a red alert, we weren't really having staff here. So that's something we could always consider, investigate. We have our staff back, our child transportation staff back on site, and they're working, and they're also supporting some of the instructional plan that you've already heard about. So it's just something for us to consider and think about. We do know that parents are having challenges getting to us, and so that'll be something for us to consider, and we'll get some feedback from Dr. Smith and look into that if possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Colton. I do have a comment that I would like to make. Over 61,000 meals served. Way to go. Great job, y'all. Thank y'all for taking care of our students and their families. We appreciate you. And Trustee Colton said it best. I just second what Trustee Colton said because it was on point. So any other questions, comments, or discussion at this time?
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your support. We really, really do. Thank you.
And you're welcome, and thank you. Okay, we will move to the information discussion item, agenda item B, technology device update, and the presenter is Mrs. Shantae Cohen.
All right, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. Thank you all for the opportunity just to share with you some information that we have. Y'all may recall that last month, I brought some information regarding the status of our devices. So at this point, I'd like to bring additional information as well as some opportunities that we have available for our students in here in our school district. So here you can see our first slide. Our team, I've been very proud of our technology team. They've spent several months just preparing, planning, really trying to make sure that we have prepared the existing devices as well as intaking all the new devices. And so with that being said, we worked really hard to be able to distribute devices out to our students and our families. In addition to that, I think Dr. Smith mentioned it earlier, but we've had some amazing volunteers who also jumped in and contributed to the device deployment. So an awesome group of people who help support our students as well. So if you look at the first line, you can see that we started our deployment on September the 1st. We actually deployed for 4 days. Our first day was probably the most the busiest day. We had a great turnout with 1,477 families who were able to, or students who received a device during that day. That was at 4 different locations that we deployed those devices. So hats off to the team for that specific day with that many individuals who came. In addition to that, of course, the rest of the week we had around anywhere between 494 or 424 to nearly 600 students who received devices. And then of course we can see the totals of device numbers there as well. Of course, we had 2 additional days we wanted to offer to our families. I know that sometimes it's hard to come during those first 4 days. So we went ahead and offered 2 additional days for makeup distributions. And so you can see on those times that we actually had more people come and more students served. And then around September the 15th, between the 15th and the 18th, that was last week, we also supplied additional devices, but not just that, we offered on-site support for our devices and helped staff, our staff helped students and their families to be able to log into their devices. We also helped with password resets and things like that. So all in all, it was a successful deployment for our students, and you can kind of see the numbers that we have there. The total number of devices deployed was 4,426. If you consider the fact that we deployed about 2,100 devices earlier on, that's nearing 6,600 devices that we were able to give out to our students. And so again, just I believe a successful deployment considering the devices that we had. Next, please. Next slide, please. All right, so in addition to that, I wanted to also give you all an update in regards to our devices that are coming in. So as you all may recall, we have Operation Connectivity as well as the $2.8 million that you all approved under the leadership of Dr. Smith, of course. And so as you can see, our iPads, we have 300 that we'll be getting from Operation Connectivity as well as a total of 1,076. Those are still scheduled to come in September. Hopefully, it would be great if we got them in the next week or so. The schedule is looking like it'll be more like October, like middle of October. So that's what we're looking at for our iPads. Again, the hope is that they'll come in sooner than that. Looking at our Chromebooks next, we have 500 of those from Operation Connectivity as well as 2,745 that we were able to purchase with the 2.8 million. As far as Operation Connectivity, they have told us that we're looking at anywhere between October to December. Again, my hope is that it comes in earlier in that October timeframe. And as far as our Chromebooks are concerned, we're looking at still early February. I have heard from our vendors that some of the Chromebooks have been coming in slightly sooner. They're starting to pick up just a little bit. So my hope is that we will, that'll be in our favor. And then lastly, we've got our student laptops. We have 222 through Operation Connectivity, and then we've got 385 through our 2.8 million. Again, that same time frame for the student laptops, October through December. And then as far as our 385, we've actually received more than half of those. So we have those on the bench right now getting ready to deploy out to CTE students. So we are partnered with that team to be able to address the needs of the kids that have specific courses that need those laptops. The goal and the hope is that we'll get the remaining 385 in next week. So hopeful for that. And then lastly, at the very bottom, we have our hotspots. Our vendors were amazing getting those out to us quickly. We actually got those in on September the 2nd. Our team was really eager to get them, so we actually had to have a group of my team drive out to go pick them up because we didn't want to wait for the deliveries to come through the parcel service. And so we got those all prepped and prepared, and those were already deployed out. So all in all, that's pretty much what we're looking at for our time frames. Again, the hope is that they'll come in sooner than what you see here. Next slide, please. All right, and so nextly, this slide, I just want to make sure as we continue to maneuver through our virtual environment, of course, we're working diligently to locate as many options as we can to provide our students with internet access. Just a few moments, I just want to share some opportunities that we have in the works at this point. Although we have been able to give out nearly, or really actually now it's over 1,000 hotspots to our families. And many of our partners like AT&T provide discounted services, like for example, $10 a month for approved families. Even though we have those opportunities, we still want to make sure that if we can provide additional support, we're going to do that. Okay, so the first piece I want to share with you, if you look at the top left-hand corner, we have a pilot for 4 buses to be outfitted with wireless access. So as you can see, that's one of our Duncanville ISD buses. And we are partnering with the transportation department in this effort. And so the 4 buses, hopefully we'll have those completed in the coming weeks. The buses are strategically will be parked in areas that benefit our students. The Wi-Fi coverage will extend approximately 300 feet from the bus. And at one given time, any one given time, we can service 60 to 65 students. So they could access the Wi-Fi if they're near the bus. In addition to that, the technology department will be managing a portal that allows us to be able to see the access and filter as well to keep our kids safe. And the transportation department will be creating a schedule that will allow our families to know exactly when the bus will be coming. So again, that is our pilot for the 4 buses. This pilot will allow us to determine any next steps for the expansion of this project. So really excited about that. We'll be working with the communications department to help us market that. Next, if you look on the right-hand corner, we have outdoor wireless at the campus parking lots. We are pleased to say that we have expanded our wireless footprint, our outdoor wireless footprint, from 1 campus, which was Duncanville High School, to actually 10 campuses now. So if you've gone to any of the games and you've been outside and you've pulled out your phone, you probably noticed that you were easily accessing Wi-Fi. That's because of the many outdoor antennas that we have placed around the DHS parking lot. So what we have done is we actually began the project early August, and we completed the project on 9/11. And so we will be actually, the parking lots that we have provide students with the opportunity to park and learn, is what we call it, and to continue to learn in this virtual environment. We do have plans to outfit the remaining campus parking lots this next school year with E-rate funding. So if y'all recall, there are times that I'll come and I'll say, we want to use E-rate funding, which is what the state will allow us to have based on our status, our economic status of our students. And so hopefully we can get some more and finish the rest of the schools next school year. So with that being said, we're really excited about that. I am partnering with the communications department to help us again market those locations, and we'll have signage for families so that they'll know that those are indeed park and learn locations. All right, we're gonna move to the bottom left corner. So we have here the project 10 million. Dr. Smith mentioned earlier that the district is a part of a grant called Sprint 1 Million. Sprint 1 Million is basically a grant that we had from last year. And so we were able to get 250 hotspots from that grant. Well, y'all may have heard that Sprint and T-Mobile actually merged together. So when they did that, they decided to come up with a different grant so that school districts could apply for that. And so Duncanville ISD did apply for that grant. We actually have an interview with that grant panel this week. So my hope is that after we have those discussions with that panel, that we'll have some good news as far as any funding that we can receive for our students to get additional devices and hotspots. So again, just excited about that possible opportunity. And then lastly, at the bottom right-hand corner, we are looking at, and Dr. Smith mentioned this earlier, pleased to announce at Duncanville ISD, we've recently joined a coalition called Internet for All. And so the group includes many of our surrounding school districts, such as Grand Prairie, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Lancaster, and other school districts. I actually had my first meeting with them last week, and so that was interesting. It was great to learn about how the committee works. I'll again be meeting with them in the coming weeks. This actual coalition, the goal of the group is to ensure that households in Dallas County have high-speed, reliable internet and access to devices in their homes. And so one of the things that I found interesting about the group is that they recently submitted an RFP, which request for proposal, requesting that internet service providers provide solutions for in-home internet subscriptions. So as you all know, we have hotspots that we give our students, but they do not necessarily help when you have large households. So if we have a student that has, or a family that has 5 or more students, one household with one hotspot can be a challenge, especially if parents are also in that home. What this solution will offer is the district can assist by paying for discounted internet subscriptions for those larger families. And so as soon as that RFP goes through, we're gonna look at it as a district to see if this is something that really will benefit us and if it's something we wanna take part in. And then of course it'll be brought back to leadership and then ultimately to the board for review. So I'm really excited about that opportunity for our students. In addition, they have provided us with different methods for internet discounts, and I'll be working with our communications team as well to launch a campaign that helps our students to be able to know where we can find a lot of these new strategies and offerings for internet. So anyway, I know that was a lot, and I'm trying to make sure I value your time, but I'd love to entertain any questions that you will have at this time.
Ms. Cowan, thank you so much. You and your team are doing an amazing job, not only working on the hotspots and the devices, but keeping us connected and keeping us online here to for our board meetings. So
well,
thank you. Thank you. Okay, so if the board has a question, comment, or discussion, please state your name and whether it is a question, comment, or discussion at this time. I can't see. Okay, Trustee Fahey.
Yes, my name is Carla Fahey, and I have a question for Ms. Cowan. First of all, thank you for that presentation. It sure clears up a lot of questions in my mind. Now, once the items that we've ordered have arrived, can you give me an approximate number of items that we still need? iPads, laptops, Chromebooks, hotspots. Do you know how many more we still might need?
Thank you for that question. As far as an exact number that we need,
Well,
our goal
approximate.
approximately, yeah. Yes, ma'am. So our goal is to be able to have our one-to-one we talked about in 3 years.
Yes.
So we're actually in phase 1 of those 3 years, and then the goal is to be able to have the next phase the 2nd year, and then the next phase the 3rd year. So given the situation that we're in right now, we're always going to be at a point where our students could have additional devices, but as far as specific or even estimated numbers, I'd have to get that for you.
Okay,
I'd have to get that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fahey and Mrs. Cowan. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? No? Okay, well, we thank you so much, Mrs. Cowan, for your time and your efforts, and you and your team are doing a great job. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, we will now move to communications from citizens. And we do not have any communications from citizens, but before we adjourn, I would like to thank everyone who attended. I'm sorry.
We have one more presentation, I believe. I think Mr. Templeton is here with the
demographic. He's here? Is he here?
Yes, ma'am. He's here.
Yes, he's here.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know he was here. I didn't see it.
Good evening, Bob Templeton here on the line.
Okay, Mr. Templeton, give me just one moment, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Can you see my presentation?
Mr. Templeton, the board has elected to view your presentation on our own time. We do have a copy of it. We appreciate you for providing it. We have a copy of your presentation, and we have agreed as a board to review that presentation on our own.
Okay, very well. And yes, don't hesitate to send me any questions.
Okay, we thank you so much for coming to the board meeting and for providing us with that very much needed information on your demographic update.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, I would like to thank everyone who attended and participated in tonight's meeting. As always, we ask you to follow us at duncanvilleisd.org for the most up-to-date information. And I just want to say COVID-19 is not going to stop the Duncanville ISD trustees from keeping our students warm this winter. So our coat drive, our annual coat drive is underway, and we're looking forward to providing our students with those much needed coats this winter. So, since there are no further items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.